Thank you for a wonderful session. We'll begin the discussion. Uh, the first question I have to start off the discussion is to both Dr. Suresh Rao and Dr. Murli. Both of you had fairly large ECMO programs. So clearly, one person cannot be initiating all the ECMOs in your unit. So what kind of training thoughts you have for making sure that regardless of who is present in the intensive care, the quality of the ECMO and the maintenance is not compromised? Both of you can.
Yeah, that's a very good question because usually it takes a little while to practice the ECMO cannulation. The good thing is all the cardiac critical care or cardiac anesthesia team, they are well versed with the various lines, especially central lines. So the same technique is used for percutaneous ECMO also. So what we do is we will make them do under supervision. So 3 to 5 times they do, then we can assess them whether they can put it safely or not. If they can put it safely, then we will let them do. And if they can't, probably we'll give more chances, maybe 5 times, 6 times, so that we will have a 24 hours coverage inside the hospital, especially in case of any cardiac arrest. They should be able to put the patient on ECMO. So that's how we train. We'll train at least 4 to 5 people in the unit so that it is possible to institute the ECMO always.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. Most cardiac anesthesiologists, at least in Bangalore, we put the IABP catheters. So we know how well they are in using the ultrasound in guiding the cannulation. In an emergency, I would want the best person to cannulate, hit the line. But there are some semi-cold situations like what Veena was showing, patient awake. Such times you have little more time. There again you can take the second best person. But I would completely agree with Bala that it should never be one-man driven program because you can never sleep well. Whenever there is a call, you have to go. So it's better to have a multi-pronged approach. We also have a policy that a cardiac surgeon is on standby. When we don't get in the first shot, they open it up. It's not harmful to open. It's harmful to make multiple holes in the artery or the vein.
Thanks, Dr. Bala. As Dr. Murali and Dr. Suresh Rao has answered, this is a very important question as well. From ECMO Society point of view, when we initiate this program, we want to make sure they have got the maximal experience before we certify them. That is our focus. So not only we take them through the theory programs, through the webinars, but we will be in close contact with the mentors where they are attached to, and keep in touch with them as well. It is very important to get proficiency in cannulation, as both the speakers have elegantly said. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yeah, please. Please identify your name, your question, and tell us whom you are addressing that question to.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Daniel from Chennai National Hospital, Paris, and I just have a question to Dr. Murali Chakraborty. This is regarding the recirculation port. So you are talking about clamp the circulation to prevent. I just want to know the timing of how long it has to be.
What was the question?
You are talking about the clamp the circulation port.
No, okay, I was telling about clamp the recirculation port.
Yes.
There is normally a recirculation port in the pump to allow recirculation of the blood so that that line doesn't stagnate. And that also lets the oxygenated blood come into that, and especially in case of hypertension or hyperflow into the system, we normally keep it open fully. It can be partly clamped too. It's the recirculation port. The main line cannot be clamped at any time unless you run into a stuck pump and change the oxygenator, etc.
So what is the prime technique used to prevent this Harlequin syndrome for that?
Prevent what?
Harlequin syndrome, we are talking about that, right?
Harlequin syndrome, the most important is if you can return the blood as high as possible. Second thing is you must continue to monitor the cerebral circulation with infrared spectroscopy. Most important is if you can wake up the patient, nothing, awake patient is the best brain monitor. So you can do that. In Indian patients, it may be difficult to see the color change, but if the patients maybe North Indian or the European patients where they are fair, you can make out the darker upper part. You can do that, but in South it may be difficult, so better monitor the saturation. Always monitor the ABG from the radial.
And last one more question. We are talking about hypoxia correction. Should not be done with bicarb. So what's the reason to go on with that?
I didn't get your question.
Hypoxia correction should not be done by soda bicarb.
Acidosis correction.
Yes.
That is a general guidelines. It is not my own guideline. Unless there is a catastrophic decrease in the pH, bicarb should not be used to correct acidosis, because the problem is not the bicarb, problem is acid production. You look at acid production treatment rather than giving bicarbonate, because it has got its own. I know it's a little controversial issue, but I stand by it and we follow it. And rarely if the pH is below 6.4, no response, impending cardiac arrest, then you may consider giving infusion of bicarb slowly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, I am Dr. Prachi from Nizam's Institute, Hyderabad. Sir, regarding, this is to Murli sir. Sir, at one point you said that when there's a Harlequin syndrome in a ECMO, so you can put an axillary cannula. So my question is, like we put a antegrade cannula for distal perfusion is femoral. Do we do the same for the hand perfusion in axillary cannulation?
Yeah, you could do any of those, but when you are giving an axillary return, it cannot be as small as the antegrade flow that you give in the femoral. Femoral flow can be as low as 150 to 200 ml per minute, but the axillary return has to be more than a liter. So you better, like the pictures shown by the surgeon, he can sew a graft into the axillary artery and put a cannula, so that you don't have to re-explore. You can just ligate the graft and come off. You have to have a higher flow. That's normally we put a 7.5 sheath into the artery, but that will not be sufficient for femoral. But the essence is similar. You have to have a bifurcation of the arterial return and an additional return going into the and like she said, measure the flow. It's a good idea. Venous flow will be always higher than the arterial flow. So you may have to clamp the venous flow a little, so they encourage the flow into the artery. Suresh?
Yeah. One comment. If you give antegrade flow through the axillary artery, it may increase the LV afterload. Usually VA ECMO, there will be cardiac failure. If you increase this one, it may result in LV distension and pulmonary edema. So the best thing is either convert it into central ECMO, where you cannulate the aorta, or you convert it into VAV ECMO, where oxygenated blood will go through the pulmonary artery and it will oxygenate, or directly put a surgical incision and drain the LV, put a LV vent. So those are the other options.
And sir, is there any specific choice of side of axillary cannulation, right or left?
You could try it in the axilla or in the front of the chest also. You can make a subclavicular incision and sew a graft of the subclavian artery and do it, or you can do this. But when you open the axillary artery, you run the risk of limb ischemia there. So you avoid one ischemia and get into another.
So opening subclavian, adding a graft to that, and through that. No,
Yes.
my question was, sir, is it a right-sided perfusion of the axillary or the left?
Normally we do the right sided
Right
because
side.
it's closer to the carotids.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to the next two speakers' questions, and I'll start the discussion with both, with Dr. Milind first and then Veena. You know, you have a distal perfusion cannula for the leg. So when you, one of the issues we have seen is when you start weaning from VA ECMO, start reducing the flows, the flow through the distal perfusion cannula also starts to come down. And sometimes when the flows are quite low, down to 1 liter, you can have, and especially if that is prolonged over 24 to 48 hours, as sometimes happens, you can have limb ischemia or that cannula thrombosis or this plasma separation. How do you manage that?
Yes, sir. Actually, we have to be, once we are on the pathway towards weaning of the ECMO, then we have to be very careful about what exactly is the configuration and what are the flows going. So we have to keep a very close watch on the, let's say, the saturation levels of the limb, and basically it's more of clinical monitoring and saturation monitoring that will determine how the flows are going.
So do you have a protocol for every shift the nurse measures just the temperature, or you also have a protocol for Doppler ultrasound every shift?
Sir, it is 2-hourly Doppler ultrasound, but usually it is not a radiologist who is called in. It is usually the ICU personnel who will be doing the Doppler, and of course the saturation monitoring every hour.
You increase the ACT when you're weaning?
Slightly, sir, but to the tune of about 20 or 30 seconds. Means if you are maintaining at, let's say, 150, 160, we will try and go it at to around 200.
And if you are cannulating the subclavian or the axillary,
Sir.
how often do you use a percutaneous approach?
Pardon, sir? How often?
If you are cannulating the axillary or subclavian, or for that matter even an intra-aortic balloon pump, how often do you use a percutaneous approach for cannulation?
Sir, almost never. We always sew in the graft, most of the times.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, and my question is from Dr. Veena. And ma'am, regarding the Avalon catheter, so how frequently you encounter recirculation on the Avalon catheter, and how do you monitor and manage the recirculation?
We have limited experience with Avalon. We have put 3 to 4 Avalon catheters, but overall the recirculation in an Avalon is very less comparing to a dual cannulation. Once during the cannulation, when we determine the site, when we place it ideally, the recirculation is very limited.
The question is, once you cannulate and you check there is no recirculation,
Yeah.
but there is high chance of catheter migration either up and down.
Yes.
So at this time, how do you monitor the things? Have you
Yeah.
encountered this or not? Yeah.
See, actually, catheter migration is a definite possibility, sir. So sometimes we have switched to dual cannulation because of catheter migration. We were not able to reposition it, and we have switched to dual cannulation.
We have 3 minutes more for this discussion. I think another important area that we have to understand, since from the All India Institute you have a large experience of perioperative ECMO support, especially for arterial switches. One of the challenges is to maintain anticoagulation at the end of bypass, especially your perioperative support is in those very situations where the bypass time is long. And bleeding is a big problem, especially now the COVID, a lot of our COVID transplants, lung transplants, we've had to continue ECMO for some time because of dense adhesions and bleeding from the chest wall. So anticoagulation is a challenge. So what is your strategy? Would you completely reverse the protamine when you start the ECMO?
Sir, most of the time it is like elective institution of ECMO. Regressed ventricles, we shift the patient with integrated ECMO to the ICU. So we keep a higher level of ACT initially. We don't definitely reverse with protamine. We allow the heparin effect to wean off with time, and we do encounter bleeding problems in almost 30 to 40% of the patients. So we have to actually accept that, and we have to give replacement with blood for the initial, let's say, 1 hour or so. However, if there is heavy bleeding, we might consider neutralizing with, let's say, 25% of protamine, 25% of the requirement, and we'll try to bring the ACT down to around 200 in about 1 or 2 hours once the patient is in ICU. If it is still more and the patient is draining, we may have to definitely consider re-exploration. Most of the time, almost all of the time, the sternum is open. It's only the blood bag that is used to close the chest. So it is very easy to re-explore in the ICU and, let's say, do a cleaning job and take any additional sutures if required, which is usually not there. Most of the time it is diffuse ooze.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay, in that case, we close this session. I thank all the speakers for a wonderful talk. and very fruitful discussion. Thank you.